not a single group went out demanding the restoration of the emperor's Higga Mangist.
Dubbiidhaan jechaadhaan haa jedhamu malee dhugaa lafarra buusuu hin dandeenye jecha.
There are people who want our failures.
No democracy, no rule, no self-determination.
One people with two different religions.
All the factors, all the parameters will be put together.
Unity should be preserved with the diversity of its peoples and with the right to self-governance.
It's a blessing to be part of such a community.
To show their culture in public for other ethnic groups.
Amara and Tigray in the northern border, Musi and Ama in the southern border, Aromo and Gragi in the eastern border, Gambella, Waleta in the western border, so come and live in the South Shore.
In the heart of the Horn of Africa lies a nation shaped not by a single culture or language, but by the convergence of many. Ethiopia's history is a rich tapestry woven from the stories of its nations, nationalities, and peoples, whose identities stretch across time, territory, and tradition. Yet it was only in the late 20th century that Ethiopia's political structure began to formally recognize.
Ethiopia, it's a free place. Ethiopia has never been colonized like other African countries. So there was a war between Adowa, the Battle of Adowa. It was a victory for all black people. You understand? Ethiopia regained their independence, and so the West start to think, as black people, we start to think about independence.
The invocation of self-determination in Ethiopia is unique in Africa, because while in Africa colonialism came to an end by the withdrawal of European colonial rule, in Ethiopia there was an internal colonization.
Ethiopia is composed of different nations and nationalities. This is one of its typical features. Globally, this is unique because these people with diverse values live together harmoniously. That is a peculiar issue of Ethiopia. This diversity is very important for Ethiopia because it is a resource. Diversity is a resource. And this resource can be an attraction for tourism.
Biyyi keenya sirna federaalawaa gaggeessuu yookiin hordofuu erga jalqabdee waggaa 30 ol turteetti.
Our country has been practicing a federal system for the past 30 years, and this system is founded on the principle of multinational federalism. We are now preparing to celebrate the 28 nations, nationalities, and People's Day, a day that reflects and reaffirms the values of federalism. We celebrate this day to honor the recognition of diversity and the constitutional guarantee that every nation, nationality, and people has the right to preserve and express its unique identity. Before the introduction of federalism, the country was governed under a single unitary system that assumed all nations shared the same identity. As a result, the identities of communities were denied or suppressed for centuries. This created a distorted understanding of Ethiopia's multicultural reality, both internally and globally. However, since the federal arrangement came into place, these misunderstandings have been corrected, and the rich diversity of the Ethiopian people is increasingly acknowledged and respected.
The federal structure in Ethiopia has been increasing a lot of things, especially in terms of development, in terms of strength, unity, and it also socio-economic development has been remarkably achieved in Ethiopia since especially 1995. So federal structure in Ethiopia has positive impacts when we compare with the unitary state. For the long period of time, as you know, Ethiopia was ruled through the imperial regime from early 19th century up to 1974. So that was already dominated by the autocratic rule and it was no democracy, no rule, no self-determination, and it also there are a lot of exploitation related with the land administration as far as a political administration. Then if you come to that of the Derg regime, similarly, the Derg government was reformed a lot of things, especially for the southern Ethiopia, especially related with the land.
The state shouldn't favor one identity against another. So lack of that democratic attribute of the state created many grievances, to the extent that armed groups requiring, demanding self-determination of constant peoples emerged. And finally, those armed groups who managed to defeat the military regime came together and decided that it's better to preserve Ethiopia in a federal structure. So that federalism should respond to the demands, the prevalent demands of the people for self-determination, for self-governance in the territories they occupy, as well as for common institutions that establish a polity, a new polity, based on equal rights of all constituent peoples. That's how Ethiopia, the history of Ethiopian federalism evolved.
In 1991, when the Derg government was overthrown and liberation fronts were coming to power, we drafted the charter because we had invoked self-determination. The invocation of self-determination in Ethiopia is unique in Africa, because while in Africa colonialism came to an end by the withdrawal of European colonial rule, in Ethiopia there was an internal colonization. And in order to end that, we invoked self-determination for the Oromo, for the Tigray, for Eritrea, and Somalis living in Ethiopia. As a response to that, the charter was drafted.
The birth of federalism in 1995 marked a turning point, an attempt to reconcile the country's complex past with the promise of a more inclusive future. When Ethiopia adopted the 1995 constitution, it emerged from decades of centralized authority, conflict, and political exclusion.
In our world, there are three types of state structure. So unitary, federal state structure, and confederal. So as we know, Ethiopia is ruling through federal state structure. Not only Ethiopia, it's also more than 40 countries in the world ruled through the federal state structure. So when we came to that, the Ethiopian experience on the federal state structure, since 1991, Ethiopia, the political environment was changed. Actually, in 1995, Constitution was recognized Ethiopia as a federal state. So, since 1995, Ethiopia has been ruled through this ethnic-based federalism. That means the ethnic groups or nationalities have their own political administration and autonomous governance system.
Every political solution has, for that matter, every human solution has benefits and side effects. The point is, the benefits should outweigh side effects. So generally, the federal arrangement is the best option. Despite we may have difficulties in implementation, we may have shortcomings, we may have new demands with other generations, I mean with change of generations and change of time, but a federal arrangement for Ethiopia is the only option. And I think federal arrangement for multi-ethnic societies is an attribute of democracy. Large democracies all over the world are federal, and a country like Ethiopia can't be unitary. It has to answer the demands of its people, its constituent people. So, on the whole, the federal arrangement has benefited Ethiopia.
The imperial government was overthrown in 1974 or 75. Not a single group went out demanding the restoration of the emperor's Higge Mangist. When Derg was overthrown, not a single group fought for the savior of, for the salvation of the Derg Higge Mangist. A constitution, however, will lead to a lot of crisis. If you revoke a constitution, people with interest in the constitution will fight.
Sirnoota armaan duratti turan keessa yoo ilaalte jettee
In order to correct distorted narratives of the past, the current government has been working effectively to build current narratives in order to strengthen unity while recognizing diversity. This effort includes revisiting historical misunderstandings, promoting inclusive development, and building institutions that reflect the shared aspiration of all Ethiopians. The reform agenda places strong emphasis on creating a political and social environment where differences are not a source of tension, but foundations for collective progress.
The 1995 Constitution established a federal system, where regional states defined primarily by ethnic lines and granted significant autonomy. Though constitutionally decentralized, often operated through a highly centralized ruling structure. This gap between constitutional ideals and political practice fueled growing discontent. People called for more meaningful autonomy. Youth movements demanded accountability. Protesters signaled a growing urge for renewal. The federal system was being tested. The political landscape of Ethiopia underwent a dramatic transformation in 2018 by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, heralding an era of reform under the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front (EPRDF). In response to the widespread protests and the pressing demand for change, Prime Minister Abiy initiated a series of reforms aimed at addressing the deep-seated grievances that had long fueled discontent across the nation. At the heart of these reforms was a commitment to political liberalization. One of the first notable actions taken was the release of many political prisoners. Greater political reform began to engage with exiled opposition groups, inviting them to return and participate in the nation's political discourse.
Ethiopians need to preserve their state. No, this state is no one's. It is the state of all its peoples. So any problems in this arrangement should be, solved, and the system has to be open in order to adapt new demands. So one thing, of course, we know from the first group that was the forerunner of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopian State, known as the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, is that they had, looks like they had two options, you know. Or for example, you can't call yourself an Ethiopian and then maintain your organization as a liberation front. I mean, that is something, it's odd. You are an Ethiopian, yes, it contradicts each other. I mean, if you are ruling a country, a multi-ethnic state, and still calling yourself a national liberation movement of some constituent group, it looks like psychologically, even on psychological level, it's wrong. And now also that party system itself was based on the assumption that the Ethiopian state is secondary to the demand of the constituent political parties. It's not the demand of the peoples. People, even an ethnic group, has to have the right to decide which party to elect. Just because you have organized a party in the name of an ethnic group, it doesn't mean that you monopolize the power of that group.
Federal state structure in Ethiopia was recognized the question of nationalities and the peoples of Ethiopia. So more or less, the question of land was answered for the people. At the same time, self-administration issues, equal resource sharing issues. At the same time, political participation issues. More or less, all ethnic groups have representation at the parliament democracy system in Ethiopia. So federally state structure has a significant contribution for the Ethiopian development and Ethiopian unity.
This era of reform brought changes across institutions. It was a moment when the aspirations of Ethiopia's nationalities and peoples were revisited with fresh energy and optimism.
Our country is a highly diverse society, and this diversity is reflected across different parts of the country. In some areas, communities may appear relatively homogeneous in terms of culture, language, and identity. As a result, people living in such places may not always be aware that other communities with completely different cultures and traditions exist within the same country. Celebrating an event like Nations, Nationalities and Peoples Day helps address these gaps in understanding. It creates clarity by bringing different cultures together in one space, allowing people to see, appreciate, and learn about the diversity that exists beyond their immediate surroundings. This awareness creates mutual respect and strengthens the sense of national unity.
Ethiopia is, first, a huge multi-ethnic country. Geographically, it's very huge. Population diversity is, very diverse. And it's the only African polity that has never been colonized. So although Ethiopia maintained its independence from European colonialists, it couldn't establish a democratic state that could accommodate its diversity, that would accommodate the democratic rights of the constituent peoples. Even democratic principle demands that people's rights on individual level may not be exercised unless they are given group rights, like say if you give the right to freedom of expression, you have to grant the right to use their own language, otherwise they can't express themselves. And secondly, full citizenship requires that a citizen exercises his group identity without difference.
Some people say that federalism is something which is not as very important. It's a source of division. That's some attitudes. Huh? You will find that in YouTube or Facebook or something. Therefore, we have to work on these attitudinal issues. Huh? They have to know what federalism is. Federalism is, it starts from common interest. Huh? Unless you have a common interest, there is no need to have a federal system. You have a federal system because you think that we have a common interest and a common issue together. Huh? Even if we have our individual or group issues, we have also common national issues. Huh? That is the basic of federalism.
With all the challenges, with all the misunderstandings, the transition was smooth and peaceful. When we say the transition was peaceful, we don't mean there were no challenges, right? But the challenges were challenged and became opportunities, through the hard work, through the commitment of the leaders. This transition was made in a peaceful way, and it has become one of the examples for Ethiopians, of course, elsewhere. So this is the beginning, and this is one of the manifestations of democratic practices, one of the manifestations. So briefly, we can learn something from this effective and peaceful transition through the hard works of the actors of the reform, starting with Dr. Abiy Ahmed. So he has led in a meaningful way to make a peaceful transition. Of course, there were other people who worked with him.
Galaken magala Shashamane, magala jalalati, magala tokkummaati.
Shashamane stands as a powerful example of this vision. Often described as a small Ethiopia, the town is home to a wide range of cultures, languages, and traditions, all coexisting peacefully. The harmony observed among its residents demonstrates how diversity can be a source of strength rather than division. Shashamane's lived experience shows that when communities value mutual respect and cooperation, the broader national goal of unity in diversity becomes not just an ideal but a reality.
A group from within the EPRDF that dissolved the EPRDF and formed a new party. This party is being built as an Ethiopian party. You know, you enter as an individual. Of course, you are a member of any ethnic group in Ethiopia, and that party is taking a good position. And I think the point is the constitutional arrangements may need some modification, but the philosophy that Ethiopian unity should be preserved with the diversity of its peoples and with the right to self-governance in the territory they occupy, with the right to use their language, develop their cultures, is the best way we can achieve the political goals of everyone in this country.
There are different views. People must have views. We celebrate people's ideas. What we don't celebrate is when they turn it into violence. Ideas, you know, ideas must rule. Ideas must have the upper hand. As Ethiopians, we have to come together, we have to understand. You know what Herodotus once said? He's a historian, a Greek historian, the father of modern history. Herodotus, Ethiopians are a reproachable race. ኢትዮጵያውያን እንከን የማይወጣላቸው ዘሮች ናቸው. This is what he said. We have to always take in mind the unity of this country. We are surrounded by different enemies. There are people who want our failures, not our successes. So we have to stick on the success to defeat the failure. You know, there is a saying, united we stand, divided we fall. It is with this notion everybody should think, because we have to think as a family, members of a family, Ethiopians.
I believe any attempt to undo the multinational federation will ultimately undo Ethiopia. I think we have achieved an irreversible solution to the issue of self-determination. Self-determination to be satisfied by self-government.
At the heart of Ethiopia's federalism lies a delicate balance between self-rule and shared rule. Though imperfect, this system aimed to create a democratic coexistence rooted in mutual respect. Ethiopia's federal design was more than administrative. It was a social vision. It aspired to transform diversity from a source of division into a foundation for coexistence. In cities, rural communities, and cultural festivals, people continue to interact beyond ethnic and linguistic lines. Federalism attempted to institutionalize what had long existed in practice, cooperation among different cultures living side by side.
The constitution says the sovereign power, political power resides in the peoples of Ethiopia, nations, nationalities of Ethiopia, as per the constitution. The most important thing is that these people interact. They know each other. You know, Ethiopians, even the names now we take for granted today were unique in that time. When these people get together, we created a culture of interacting between peoples, people-to-people relations, cultural understanding, cultural exchange was made possible, and it became a mobilization for Ethiopianness of this. They were able to sense that, to practice that they were Ethiopians, equally Ethiopians, and they have no contradiction between each other as peoples. So, and no one loses from this diversity coming together.
Ethiopia is like, it's a diversity of people, but they are one. All Ethiopians are one. In Jamaica, like about Ethiopia, it's one of the few places on earth that you go and see so much tolerance. In other words, there's tolerance in culture and in religion. Sure. Even the Muslim and the Christian, they are one people with two different religions.
We speak different languages, we have different lifestyles, way of life, culture, religion, but it is humanity that brings us together. Humanity brings us together. We have to think as human beings. But there are people who want to exploit this situation. People especially who are in far places.
Ethiopians should celebrate their diversity and also work on their unity, because there is nothing very bad in this world today like losing citizenship. Being a stateless is the curse you can have in this world. So failed states are nightmares. So Ethiopians should strive to work together, to celebrate each other, and to be committed to preserve Ethiopian statehood.
Nations, Nationalities and Peoples Day celebrated every year on December 8. On this day, representatives from all corners of the Federation gather to display their culture and traditions. The celebration carries deep symbolic weight. It honors the constitutional principle.
Namni hundumtu yookiin immoo sabab sablamoonni hundi isaaniiyyuu aadaa qabnaa, afaan qabnaa, seenaa mataa keenyaa qabna warri jedhan kun kan isaaniitiin boonanii.
Celebrating the day enables all nations, nationalities, and peoples to proudly promote their identity, history, values, and traditions. Beyond this, the celebration creates an opportunity for nations to meet face to face, learn from one another, and appreciate the rich diversity that defines our country. Through these direct interactions, people gain a deeper understanding of the cultures they live alongside, and as a result, the day opens a door to mutual recognition, stronger bonds, and peaceful coexistence among diverse communities. It reinforces respect, harmony, and unity, key ingredients for building a stable and inclusive nation.
Nowadays, in the 21st century, diversity has to be managed and also celebrated. Therefore, in order to build a strong state, the diversity management is very important and it's a fundamental issue.
Sirna waliin jireenya sabaaf sablammootaati irratti sirni gadaa Oromoo.
The Oromo Gada system strongly encourages peaceful coexistence among the various nations, nationalities and peoples of the country. Its principles and law extends not only to the human beings but also to all living creatures, reflecting a deep respect for life and harmony. This is one of the reasons why the Oromo have been living with many other communities without conflict. Gada teaches value of peace, love, unity and fraternity, principles that guide social order and strengthen relationship among people. Therefore, we will all have the responsibility to put these values into practice, ensuring that to shape our interactions, our governance and our collective future.
Gada system welcome everybody, so it's a blessing. It's very, very inclusive. And it's a blessing to be part of such a community, because when I wake up, I don't have to think, where do I go from here? I just go out on the street and I meet my family. The Oromo people are my family. Ethiopian people in general are my family.
All the elements, all the factors, all the parameters will be put together in a grand system. Grand system does not compromise the existence of individual values. That is why, so if you bring together, if you integrate, if you have widened kind of thinking, we bring the different values of Ethiopia, the different elements of Ethiopia together, which results in grand narration. This grand narration takes us to the global nature.
To celebrate such kinds of celebrations, such kinds of holidays. I remember when I was a kid, the ethnic groups that were living in my birthplace come together to show their culture in public for other ethnic groups. Therefore, this day of nation, nationalities and people, first of all, it helps us to know each other. Otherwise, we cannot know each other unless we show the culture in public. If you hide your culture in your regional state at your home, nobody can know that. Nobody can understand you.
Amara and Tigray in the northern border, Musi and Ama in the southern border, Oromo and Gragi in the eastern border, Gambella, Waleta in the western border, so come and live in the South Shower. Come and live in the South Shower. Kombata, Hadia, in the area with Walaita, Oromo, the bigger brother, the one of them are living in the South Shower, so come and live in the South Shower.